going to welcome, friends. Thank you for clicking that button. It is only my face that's being recorded. So hello to those joining us live. My name is Andy Reiner, and we are part of Fiddle Hell online. This is a bonus workshop for early signups of Fiddle Hell, and it is also available to patrons of mine at patreon.com/Andy Reiner. Today we're talking about intonation. And there's a sentence that I really like called "Intonation is a vibe." So this is essentially, is it a technique workshop? Is it a tune workshop? Is it a listening workshop? I like to think that it's all above. And quick shout out to anyone listening from the future. That's right. I'm really excited for for you to be joining us here in the past. If you want to let us know through time travel what happens next on season 2022 of Planet Earth, it's an exciting moment, so I'd love to know what happens next. Hello in the future. But all of you here currently live with us, we're going to get into it finally. Thank you for your patience as we just let a couple more people in. So I want to tell a quick story. Where did I hear this phrase, intonation is a vibe? Oh yeah, and I'm pinned, but of course you can watch my big face, or you can watch it in party mode and see everyone's faces and everyone play along. So I'll be seeing you in party mode, aka gallery view. So many moons ago, not that many moons ago, but I forget the exact year. Daryl Anger, one of my heroes, and also someone who's been to Fiddle Hell many times as one of our esteemed teachers and jammers. He came to Fiddle Hell, and he asked me to play some shows with him and Emmy Phelps. So I headed up with Joy Adams, Dr. Joy of cello fame, who now plays with the band Big Richard, which is currently on a rocket ship to the edge of the universe for a female bluegrass band. Anyway, so we headed up to Big Sky, Montana, and we played our first show, and it was terrifying to play the first show ever with one's hero on stage in front of many other heroes in the audience. And I think Joy must have played like a really big fat wrong note, because they were talking about it at the end. And I forget who said something, and in a performance, we're always passing off our mistakes as part of the show. Performers are human. Part of the live concert experience is that anything can happen. And that kind of spontaneity, I think, brings a vulnerability to the performer and some excitement that's excellent. However, sometimes you just play a big fat wrong note. And Joy was having a conversation with Daryl about this, like, God, sorry about that note, or whatever. I'm pretty sure I'm paraphrasing. And someone who was listening was like, oh, you're always like a half step away from the right note. And Daryl comes back, he's like, sometimes a half step is a million miles away. So it's like, yeah, sometimes it's just not the note you meant. And but it got me thinking, and we started talking more about intonation more generally and how it applies to playing music with other people. Because when we play, I'm going to refer to Daryl a lot because he's just so inspiring to me. He refers to this fingerboard as a big black hole. Unlike instruments like guitars, mandolins, pianos, we have absolutely no visual reference to where the notes are. So, that makes playing the darn thing so much more challenging. Give me some Zoom applause if you have experienced the challenge of playing notes in tune. You just want to focus on playing in good time and good rhythm so everyone feels good. But we really have to suffer on these instruments to play them in tune. So I want to give you some tools and ways to think about it. So that's what intonation is a vibe is about. Now, the conversation continued, and this is my favorite Daryl intonation quote. Is just there's no such thing as like perfect intonation. Intonation is a vibe. You either get it or you don't. Now that seems black and white, but in a performance setting, like in a professional situation, band leaders are trying to hire people who can play in tune because they'll make them sound better. So, what are the ways? But we're all on an individual journey. That's right. So, and and just like practicing with the metronome, where you're never too good at playing rhythm to not need the metronome, you're always going to need to focus on playing in tune, whether you are the most basic beginner or the most accomplished expert musician. Like, I am positive that Yo-Yo Ma works on his intonation. I am positive that this practice can be useful for everyone. So that's sort of the intro. But why is it just like, why can't we just put out our tuner and be like, well, the tuner said it was in tune, so I'm right. Well, what if the guitar player is out of tune? And you might be right according to the tuner, but the guitar is tuned down a little bit, so you have to adjust, right? That's not an exact science. That's something that you do with your ears. What if your bass player is playing perfectly in tune according to the tuner, and the mandolin and the guitar are all sounding really good, but there's a banjo player who's out of tune? Who do you follow? Do you go with the banjo player? Do you go with everyone else? Do we go somewhere in the middle? There's no right answer. The answer is you have to use your ears to listen to find out where the best place to put your finger is in that moment. Okay, here's another quote. I've got so many of these. There's a lot of different methods to learning this instrument. Okay, some of you are familiar with the Suzuki method. I'm working on a method myself, and Daryl sometimes talks about the point and play method. You point, use your finger, use it to point at the note that you want, and then you play it. Simple point and play technique. Okay, so that's a joke because it's obviously way harder, and that's where intonation is a vibe comes in. So before we get started with drone work, we're gonna try something together. I want you to listen to me do it first, and then I want you to do it. Okay? So think about the sound. Like, what is a sound? When we draw our bow across the strings, we are making sound waves. Waves are flying out of our instruments and into the air and bouncing off of everything in the room. Okay? And you may or may not have heard of the harmonic series, but when you play like in F sharp, third of the key of D major, there's more going on than just the F sharp note. There's a lot going on. And so these other sounds are referred to as overtones. And most people don't think about them consciously, but they're there and they're part of the note and they're part of the sound you hear. And they're part of those waves that are coming out of your instrument and bouncing off of everything else in the room. Now, it's pretty hard to tell if you're perfectly in tune as a solo instrument because it is relative. Are you in tune? Relative to what? If I just played a note, is it in tune? Sure. In tune with what? Is it in tune with the tuner? No, it was an F natural made slightly sharp. But is it okay? It's like there's nothing wrong with that note. I mean, I played that note and I felt good about it. I loved that note. My tuner said that I was sharp, but it's all about the context. The context is everything. Well, who are you playing with? What kind of music are you playing? What kind of variability of intonation is acceptable? So let's go back to these waveforms. We have say, it's easier to hear when we have more than one voice. So luckily, with these instruments, we can play two notes at the same time. Some people call that double stops. and we will today as well. So the most familiar double stop for everyone is probably like the tuning one, right? You play your strings together to hear if they're in tune, because it's easier to hear if it's in tune when you play them together. Unless you're just one of those tuner stickler people, and that's fine. Although intonation is a vibe, it's all relative. So if you got just a standard tuner and you tune your open strings to it, you may still not be perfectly in tune. You might have different perfect fifths. So I like the tuners that are made for these instruments and adjust to give us those perfect fifths. There has been a lot of arguing through centuries, by the way, about what is tuning and what is the proper way to tune the piano. Just intonation. So if you want to go on a historical rabbit hole of how the world thinks about intonation, I'll just say that there's a lot on the internet to Google, and not everyone agrees. So my goal today is to give you something that is useful, and you can come up with your own version of how you think about it. So these are two notes played together. Now, when the waveforms are in tune, you hear that sound of like being in tune. You're tuning up your instrument. Let me just detune my D string for a second. Ooh, I can hear that it's not in tune. I'm gonna keep moving it till I get there. Not there yet. I'm starting to suspect that it dragged my A string down with it, so I'm gonna whip out my trusty. It did. It made my A string sharper. Whoa. My trusty I Strobosoft. And tune my A. Okay, my A is good, but my D is not. And I'm gonna tune my D to my A. I need new strings, because every time I tune my D string, my A string goes with it. Do you hear these waves battling together or singing together? And the question that nobody asked that I'll answer is it worth spending a lot of time tuning your instrument before you start playing? Yes, because then it's easier to play in tune if your strings are in tune. I have a student who will remain nameless. They are a child, after all, but I am certain that they practice all the time without tuning, and it has led to a pretty interesting, shall we say, intonation experience when they play music. Wow. I really brought it way out there. Time for new strings. Okay, so here's what I want you to try. I want you to try, and you can do this with any pair of strings. I want you to find, like, here's my A string. I'm going to do it first, so listen for a second. I'm going to find my A on my D string. I'm going to play it along with my A, my open A. Now with this unison, I can hear, wait, I just want you to listen to me, then I'm going to send you off to do it. Okay? I promise you're going to play it 3 seconds. This is the sound of notes being friends. The waves are just going parallel off into the distance, off into the sunset on their horse. Everything is good and the sunset is orange. Now I'm going to detune it slightly. And now I can hear they're fighting. They're clashing. And you can hear, like, within that, there's like a rhythm. dissonance has its own rhythm. That is literally the waves bouncing off of each other and going as they come out of your instruments and go flying through the air and bounce off of every single thing in the room that you're in. So I want you to try right now. This is a sound. The sound of in tune is a sound that you can hear. You can hear when those waveforms are being friendly to each other. You can hear when they're having an argument, so to speak. So I want you right now, with any pair of strings, play unisons. I want you to get it perfectly in tune and detune it and then bring it back. I'm going to let you do this for 70 seconds. Ready, set, go. So you're going for that in-tune sound where their waveforms are friendly. We're detuning and we're listening to the sound. What does it feel like when they're clashing? How does it make you feel? Think about it. I also want to say, as you're doing this, none of these are good or bad sounds. They are sounds. It's all part of music. This is music. It's maybe not marketable music, but it's music. It sounds. You're making music. All right, 7 more seconds. Okay, stop. Great job. Type in the chat. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being you have no idea what you're talking about and were completely unsuccessful trying to play 2 notes in tune and then detuning them. 10 being you heard the sounds, you got it in tune, and you felt it when it was in tune, and you felt it when it was out of tune. Cool. I'm seeing some high numbers. I love these. 9, 10, 10, 9. 9 to 10. 7, 8. Cool. Okay. 10. Yeah, baby. Cool. So this is just like an exercise in training your ear to hear that. Because when you're playing one note, and instead of the other note being the same note being played by the same bow, and it's like, say, a guitar or a bass or the cello drone that you found on YouTube. By the way, a great source of drones is, of course, just Google cello drone on YouTube and you'll find some great things to practice to. This is the sound of being in tune. It has a vibe. It has a feeling. It's not just like some weird thing on paper that's like, do you play in tune all the time or do you play out of tune all the time? We're always trying to improve it. So I wanted you to experience the sound of that unison detuning because that is the easiest to hear example of like, is something in tune or not? Now, the easiest way to practice playing in a key I'm just going to read Heather's comment because it's interesting. 10, I get physically tense and my throat closes at certain frequencies. So if you want to keep breathing and stay alive, Heather, you should play in tune. That's some motivation if I've ever heard of any. Okay, so I have a tool here that's really fun. I have a thing called the looping pedal. If Capo the cat will allow me to take my electric violin, I have it plugged in so that if I play something, it'll just keep playing forever. And it makes practicing ridiculously fun. So the thing I like to do is make drones out of multiple versions of me. Somebody throw some fiddle tunes into the chat. We're going to apply it to fiddle tunes right away. Maybe let's see if we can keep it a common tune. The most common tune in the chat in the next 10 seconds wins. Cool. St. Ansriel. I like St. Yeah, Cool. So there's a lot of good tunes coming in here. Let's go with St. Anne's Reel, because the last workshop, I believe I spent an entire hour on Red Haired Boy. So let's go with St. Anne's Reel. All right. So St. Anne's Reel is in the key of D major. D major, pretty much, I'm pretty sure all the notes in St. Anne's Reel are all from the scale D major. So I'm going to make a D drone using multiple versions of myself. I'm even going to tune it with the tuner that I have on the floor here, so I know my drone is going to be accurate. So that's one of me. I'm going to add like 5 more of me to the sound. For any of you looping fiends, I'm now in overdub mode, just recording more of myself. Okay, now there's a bunch of me happening at the same time. I'm going to drop myself down an octave. Get that nice low D. That's feeling pretty good. I think I might give it an A. Oh. So check this out. In order to lay an A on it, I have to make sure it's in tune before I start recording. And check out how easy it is to hear against something else if it's in tune or not. Ah, now I'm ready. Capo the cat is taking up so much space in my double violin case that holds 2 violins that I cannot put my Yamaha electric violin back in it. So it's on the floor. The cat wins over there. He's black and the case is black, so you can't probably see them in this lighting, but there you have it for all the cat fans out there. The cat wins, Andy loses. Capo 1, Andy 0. So I've got this D drone, and I'm going to do a 4-step process now with this. First off, I'm going to do a, let's say, D major scale up and down. And listen first, I'm going to do it, and then you're going to do it. Okay? This is step 1 to my knowing a scale and playing it in tune process. The thing that I'm not going to do is be in a rush. The thing that I am going to do is make sure that every note that I play really feels in tune before I go on to the next one. Because I'm not just trying to get up and down the scale and be like, do I know what notes are in D major? Sure, I know what notes they are, but the thing I'm working on is, can I play them in tune? Not do I know what they are? So you heard me tune that E. I was a little flat when I put my finger down. There we go. Now this one's hard to hear, the 7th note, because it's more dissonant than any of the other notes, but here's out of tune 7. Here's in tune major 7. And tell me if I'm wrong, but that has a vibe. The feeling of that is a vibe. So that's why I always say intonation is a vibe. And then I'm going to go down. Playing in tune is not all about muscle memory. It is about combining your muscle memory with the responsiveness of your ears, which of course are connected to your brain. So your turn, ready, set, go. Scale up and down, tune those notes. You have 1 minute, ready, go. If we're about halfway through, if you have lots of extra time, try it in a different octave. If you're bored, you're not challenging yourself enough. 5 more seconds, see if you can finish it up. And the magic fade button has been activated. The drone will now fade. All right, cool. Type in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10. I don't care if you played it in tune. 0 is you couldn't hear when you were in tune or out of tune, and 10 was you could hear when you were in or out of tune. So my scale of 1 to 10 is not about how well did you play it, but could you hear it? Yes, I'm seeing a lot of high numbers, a couple 7s, a couple 8s. Yeah, so that's the thing about playing music is, can hear it the more I do it. Yes, because practicing takes repetition. I'm currently on a singing every day mission. I'm singing at least an hour every day. And any time I skip a day, I get worse at it. Anytime I do it again, I get better at it. It's weird how that practice stuff works. So the same could be said for trying to train your ears to hear a new thing. So when you're playing music with other people, it's not how good is your muscle memory, it's how well can you adjust by listening in the moment, right? I'm seeing some nods. Thank you. Go for the good vibes. Yes, we want to have a good intonation vibe. So step 2, and this is the key to learning what notes are in chords, is playing arpeggios. Yes, it's kind of like, it's not the world's most exciting thing to play arpeggios, except if you realize that those are the same notes that are in the chord. So if you're like, I don't know what's in a chord, you should play more arpeggios, because the answer to what is in a chord is the same notes in the arpeggio. For our purposes now, let's do the advanced version of an arpeggio, which has the 7th. In this case, and of course, if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 being the same as the root. Okay. Our arpeggio. I know that word. Yes, I do. We're gonna take the 1, the 3rd, and the 5th, and we're gonna take the 7th. Yes, because in St. Anne's Reel, we have a C sharp, so we have the major 7th from the major scale. Here's our 1 octave, me first, D arpeggio. Play it with me. Make sure we have all the right notes. Do it on your own twice. Ready, set, go. Type in the chat the word ducks when you are done. All right, going up and down. I see some people playing it very slow, other people are playing very fast. Okay, I'm gonna fade it out. Good enough. Mallards, nice. I'm trying to give you tools, not necessarily. So here's the other thing, right? We are all on our own personal journeys with intonation. So it never really ends. So I'm just trying to show you some tools that you can use to do it. There's an interesting conversation happening in the chat that I would like to read out loud. Jane says, once you hit a wrong note, though, it is kind of too late. You aren't supposed to fish for the right note, or so I've been told. Andrea responds, Jane, it depends on the style of music you're playing. Some is more forgiving. So, yes, remember that word I said in the beginning that starts with C? Context. There are many different contexts of playing music, and a bluegrass jam is going to be different from an Irish jam, which is going to be different from a jazz jam. I think that once you put your finger down, if it's not in tune, you are not doomed to have only played that note out of tune. I think, me personally, I tend to try to slide into a more in tune version of the note and fix my mistake, so to speak. Okay, step 3 of learning about keys and chords and the notes that we play within St. Anne's Reel is to take the notes from the scale and the arpeggio by default. But let's think of all the notes from the scale anywhere on our instrument in any position, and to play them out of order. And also, whoa. See, this is why you put fiddles in the case, because it's easier to get around them, but there's a cat in my case. So, and you're just going to change the order of them and sometimes use rests, okay? I'm going to demonstrate this. I'm also going to turn on a delay sound because that makes it fun. So anytime I play a note, it kind of repeats after me. It also means that any note that I play out of tune is going to be repeated back to me several times until I get it in tune. So the stakes are higher, and it also is a cool sound. So I will demonstrate changing the order of the notes in the D major scale and also using rests, and then you will have 1 minute and 20 seconds to try it yourself. Rests give you the space to hear and make phrases. That's right. What I'm doing right now is called practicing the intonation via improvising. It is now your turn. Ready, set, go. Fun. You have 30 more seconds. gonna fade it out. All right. Good job. Give me some Zoom applause if you changed the order and used rests. It's just an exercise if you go up and down. That's an exercise. It's music if you change the order and add rests. That is, it's never going to be the same. More interesting question in the chat. Russ says, I have several fiddles that I rotate playing. They might have slightly different string lengths. Does that make improving intonation more difficult? Should I always just play one fiddle? So there's several questions in that question, but the answer is if you have different string lengths on your different instruments, you need to be aware of them. You need to be aware of which ones are longer and which ones are shorter and how that affects your intonation. I'm not going to tell you not to play different instruments, but it is something that you need to be aware of, and it might make your personal intonation journey slightly more challenging as it becomes like instrument specific. For example, my 5-string violin is shorter, has a shorter scale length than a viola when I play on the C, even though I have a C string. So just because I can play in tune on my personal instrument, which is slightly longer than a 4-string violin, but not as long as a viola, doesn't mean that I can automatically pick up a viola and play everything from muscle memory perfectly in tune. It means I have to use my ears. So it's up to you. And there's also, I'm getting a private message about this point. There's more than one way to, get the note in tune once you're kind of down and out. One way that one of my teaching heroes, Pam Wiley, showed me is if you're trying to play fifths and it's not coming out in, like, say your strings are in tune. Let's make them in tune. Then we'll say they're in tune. Okay. You can move your elbow and change the tuning of this double stop. So there's more than just going up and down. You might need to curve your finger more. You might have some kind of weird wrist angle. But in general, I would say this is a hard enough instrument to play as it is. So make it easy on yourself and just, move your... It's going to be a very slight adjustment, right? You don't have to go very far. So you might roll your finger instead of moving your whole hand or whatever. The website with cello drones. Okay, so Daryl Anger has a digital Shruti box, which you can buy from his Bandcamp. That's sort of an Indian sounding thing. If you search on YouTube for cello drones, you can get them. They seem to play with ads. And I also have some MP3s of that if anyone emails me requesting it to andyreinerfiddle@gmail.com. I would be happy to send them to you because I cannot trace the source of them. I don't know who originally made them. I don't know where they came from, but I have them now. Okay, so moving on. We have now made it to playing the tune. Yes. Okay, we're officially on step 4. Play the tune, but don't worry about time. Don't worry about playing it in perfect groove and putting your accents here and using rhythmic dynamics. Just play it out of time and get the notes in tune. You have 1 minute, ready, go. more seconds. And it's fading out. The reason that you're not playing it along with me is that you need to spend time hearing your own intonation against something that's not you or your instrument. This is the argument that I posted recently that my wife, Dr. Joy Adams, said about the metronome is that you need practice adjusting what you're doing on your instrument to external things that are not you. In the case of the metronome, that's a timing thing that's not you. Of course, that skill translates to playing with other people who might be playing strummy things or rhythm. In the case of intonation, you're practicing being able to tune what you're doing to what the guitar player is doing. Sure, it's easier to hear when it's a drone, but if you've practiced adjusting your intonation with the drone, it sure gets easier in real life in a jam. Okay, now finally, step 5. We play the tune up to speed with the drone. Yes, are there chord changes? Of course. Are we going to worry about them now? No. We're in the key of D. We're just going to worry about trying to play it as in tune as we can with the drone. So, me first. All right, so I had a couple things in there like slides, little ornaments. Did I play it perfectly in tune? Well, I thought I played it pretty good in tune, and I played some things that were pretty close to in tune, and I put a couple ornaments in that were purposefully playing with the intonation. So it's not a yes or no thing. Intonation is a vibe. Your turn. Ready. Play the St. Anne's Reel. If you do not know the St. Anne's Reel, play any other tune in the key of D along with this drone. Ready, set, go. So you're up to full speed now. For those of you unwillingly following along with the Cat in the Case saga, my last solution was to just rest the fiddle on the cat and hope that he just kept sleeping, and it worked. So I got my case back, and Capo got to keep napping. So everybody wins. All right, so there are 5 steps to practicing playing a fiddle tune in tune. Identify the key. That's step 0. Step 1, play the scale. Step 2, arpeggio. Step 3, change the order and use rests, aka improvisation. Don't forget to breathe, by the way, when you do this. Breathing is good. Oxygen is helpful. Step 4, playing the tune out of time. Focusing on the notes in the order that they come, but not worrying about playing them in time. And step 5 is putting it all together, playing the tune in time with the drone and trying to get it as in tune as possible. Okay. Ooh. Some interesting comment I'm going to respond to extremely fast. Russ says, sometimes I use an app called Intonation, which tells me visually if I was in tune. You record a song, then play back, and it visually shows when you were sharp or flat. Very helpful because our ears are not always honest. I am telling you to train your ears so that they become more honest. Now, it's all relative. So you might be in tune with the tuner according to the app, or you might not be. But what if your guitar player has one string that's out of tune? You have to use your ears to adjust. It is not about like I'm telling you, if you use the visual for anything except like here's what I use a visual tuner for. Like I've got one on the floor and I've got it tuned. I've got this setting on it that makes it perfect for open strings on a violin. And if I'm about to record a drone on my looper, I might look at it so that I make sure, because I'm about to tell 60 people live and whoever's watching from the future to play along with me. So I better get my drone in tune. But after that, it's about listening. Okay, I'm going to make a quick A drone. Type in the chat yes or no if you know the tune Cluck Old Hen. Quick poll. I have no idea why I made this loop so long. I will now need to take just a little bit longer to get this one in there. I use cello drones from YouTube if I'm in a hurry, and I do this manually, so to speak. If I have a little more time, it's also more fun. It also helps me work on my tone with my right hand, trying to get these long bows. Where is it? Where's my drone? Play my drone, please. That's weird. You can hear that my initial note and my current note are ever so slightly different. But the more I layer on top, the less of a problem it becomes. So if you ever want to multi-track record strings in your own home, say on GarageBand or any other software, I will let you in on a secret that I learned at Berklee College of Music. What is going on? Where's my drone? Wow. Hold on, guys. Sorry. I'm having a complete and total looping technical failure, which once in a while does occur, and just like your computer requires a restart. So here we go. You're going to go off and on, and then you will work again. Please, thank you. Oh, my MIDI cable wasn't plugged in all the way. Darn traveling. Okay. That amp always makes that sound, don't worry. Okay, thank you for your patience. We're really gonna do it this time. I can hear it working. Okay, this is not my most favorite drone I've ever made. You can hear that seam every once in a while come around, but okay. So yes, Cluck Old Hen is a very simple old-time tune. If you don't know Cluck Old Hen yet, one of your jobs between now and say the next time you play music with someone else is to go learn Cluck Old Hen. It's a really great tune. We're gonna think about the B part. which goes like this. The thing that I need you to care about is these three notes: A, C natural. And then it goes to a G. Then we have. All right, so that's this thing. So let me play it for a second with C natural in this B part. And feel free to play along if you know this B part. Just make sure you play a real true C natural. All right, it sounds minor because it is. A C natural is the minor third of an A. What if we played the same exact thing, but we played a C sharp? Let's try it. Ready? Here we go. Okay, neither one of these is right or wrong. Intonation is a vibe. You get to choose what kind of C you want to play. So what about, here's, if the, answer in the chat, if this is a C natural and this is a C sharp, what is this? What is that? What is that? What is that? C narp. Oh, wow. That's a good answer. It's in between. We are not pianos. We are not guitars. We are not mandolins. A scale in India. Supernatural. A C not quite sharp. Like here's how much space there is. There's like C natural, C sharp. I mean, quarter tone misses even the point that there's more than just like however you want to chop it. It's sort of like kind of infinite. I like what Russ. It's a cat or it's microtone. Yeah, whatever. We don't. Eighth tone. Yeah, I don't really quantify it. I call it a C plus personally because it's kind of like a C. It's a little more than C, but it's not quite a C sharp. Okay, let's now play this B part with a C plus. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, let's count the C's in this B part. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what if I started at C natural and then did a C plus and then a C sharp? What would that sound like? Ah. Yes, now we're telling a story with intonation. The farther along the B part gets, the higher my C goes until I finally reach a C sharp. What if I did the same thing, but I didn't quite get to C sharp? I was stopped just below C sharp on that third one. Okay, it sounds pretty good in the context of like this is an old time tune that rides the line between minor and major. So one of the brilliant things about these instruments and this music is we have choices that we can make with our fiddle tunes about like maybe we're going to purposely play some of our notes out of tune according to the tuner, but if it sounds good, it is good. So just because the tuner says your C is weird doesn't mean it's wrong or that it's bad. And awareness, greater awareness of how intonation is going to affect the feeling of a tune is going to make it easier and more fun to play around with this. You can also use, like, me personally, I'd probably leave the A where it is. Like, but we can have some fun with some dissonance getting into it with the unison. That's all out of tune according to a tuner. But in old time music, it sounds good. So, yeah, there's the A stuff, but the G could be a little sharp. That G is a little, right? Here's normal G natural. Here's a G plus. So, intonation is fun. That's my conclusion. Intonation is fun. I want you to spend approximately 1 minute playing around with the intonation of these notes, not trying to get it in tune, trying to have fun moving it around and seeing how that makes it feel different. You can even play the A part if you want, if you know this tune. Okay, I'll see you in 1 minute. Ready, set, go. Way up the drum. Have begun the fade out process. Okay, now I don't want you to rate your ability level or your hearing. I want you to rate how much fun you had on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is the most fun. Actually, this scale goes to 11. You can go up to so Chuck got it at the same time. 12! Yes! All right. Okay, now we're talking. I'm going to read all these numbers. 7, 11, 10, 10, 11, 10, 12, 10, 9, 10, 9, 9, 11, 11, 10, 10 plus 11, 7, 10, 10. Okay, so I started with intonation as a vibe, and I want to end in the direction of intonation is fun. It's fun to think about, it's fun to practice, and the more you think about it and the more you practice, the more fun it is to play your instrument, and the more fun it is to play with other people, and the easier it is to play in tune with other people, the more time you spend training your ear and your fingers to be able to adjust to an external source that's not you. I guess we've got a banjo player here, and it's also true that fretted instruments can bend notes. So I don't mean to say that just if there's a mandolin or a guitar or a banjo that this doesn't apply, because it sure does. You have all those, you just have to use a different technique to get there. Mandolins, of course, are in pairs of strings, and they're doubled, so if you bend it, you're going to get two versions of that same note because they're going to bend it different. Okay, so Heather says her favorite version of Cluck Old Hen is on the album Live from the Swamp by Half Pelican. Thank you, Heather. I am on that album, and we recorded it at the first Fiddle Hell online back in November 2020. Yes. Okay, so I want to finish up here with a couple more thoughts. I'm going to show you one more thing to kind of expand this in a couple different directions for how to think about it in the future. But first, I want to say thanks to all who attended live. I really appreciate you being here. And those of you who are coming to Fiddle Hell, we're super excited to see you at Fiddle Hell. Please remember to tell your friends, because Fiddle Hell is better with friends. And the more of you there are, the more we can continue to bring unbelievable, amazing people to come and teach. And someone is going to win that fiddle that my dad's holding up. Okay, so I want to end on my electric instrument for a second. Because there's some things that pedals do really well. Okay, I love the sound of my acoustic violin. It's awesome, but I also love my electric violin. This is also a 5-string. So check this out. I want to show you some effects that make me think about intonation in a different way. Okay, so the first effect that I want to show you is called it's a speaker amp simulator, and the particular speaker amp that it is simulating is the Leslie organ speaker, which, believe it or not, has two, like, this is how organs get their crazy wild sound. There's two speakers and they spin. And the speaker spins, you get Doppler effect, and the speakers can spin the same way or different ways. And when you put a microphone in front of it, you get this massive crazy effect that is really weird. But they do it physically. I do it by pushing a button. That's the slow version. Let's make it fast. I have too much reverb. Here's the crazy thing. That is out of tune with itself, and yet it sounds cool. So, like, using intonation, like, in a fun way, it doesn't have to make it more accurate to be more fun. Sometimes these little tiny separations make it cooler. So that is the organ effect. If you're looking to experiment with that sound, it comes in all kinds of different names. But I am going to stick around, by the way, once we're done, and answer any questions until there are no questions left. The other effect that I want to show you is distortion. Okay, so I was recently Fiddle Hell, actually. My dad, Dave, and my wife, Dr. Joy Adams, we all went down to Atlanta, Georgia, to be a part of the American String Teachers Association National Conference, at which I was on a panel about how to use effects pedals to improve your classical technique. So I'm stealing the idea that Matt Bell shared with that panel, which is that distortion, distortion, of course, being this. You know, that like thing that you've heard Metallica do since the 80s? Distortion, which, by the way, works better on electric string instruments than it does acoustic because of feedback problems and gain and all that. But instead of some people think that because this is a little gritty, that you can get away with more by using more effects. But I'm here to tell you that when you turn on the distortion, the opposite is true. Let me try and play a third in tune. There it is. Ooh, that's bad. There's some six. That's really in tune. When you get it advice to everyone was to play Bach. Practice Bach with your distortion on. So here's a question you can answer in the chat. Do I need to spend more time practicing intonation when I play Bach? Yes or no? It just, the distortion makes all of your intonation problems so much more amplified. And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. I need to practice my Bach. I need to work on my intonation. And Bach, of course, was one of the great fiddle tune writers, although he's credited in this weird other thing called classical music. But pretty much all of the Bach partitas and sonatas are, in some ways, have their similarities to fiddle tunes, and they're really great ways to practice intonation and explore the fingerboard. So I'm just gonna leave you, I think, with that. I'll say that especially in Irish music, there's you're never gonna play in tune with an accordion, and there's a lot of microtonal things happening in Irish music. Our friend Armand Ehrman did a workshop on that at I believe it was the last Fiddle Hell. And so I just hope that as you move forward, you continue to experience intonation as a thing that's fun to practice and worth thinking about, no matter who you're playing with and where you go. So that's all. Thank you, everyone. Who has questions? Well, let's answer them. Yay! Yay, we did it. And I kept it under 90 minutes. That's good. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. You can unmute if you want to say anything.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, that's Yvette. I know that's Yvette. I know that voice.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, so
Thanks,
if anyone
Andy.
has questions about pedals or intonation or anything, I'm going to stick around and answer any questions. But if no one has questions, then everything is clear. That's cool, too. But I bet someone has a burning question that someone else shares. So.
Andy, Chuck here.
Hey.
Using distortion certainly amplifies the difference when you're doing double stops. I didn't realize that it
Uh-oh. I think we lost Chuck mid-question.
He didn't realize it makes him freeze up.
We're going to give him a moment and see if he reappears. Chuck, are you with us? Of course, that's the kind of thing that only happens when you unmute to ask a question. I've been... Good old technology. Okay, sure. Can I speak to... Fawn asks, can I speak to which micro alterations and pitches are characteristic of different genres? Yeah. I think old time... Oh, yeah, I meant to... I was trying to not go on, drone on and on forever, so to speak. So I sort of had planned to speak a little bit more about this, but like, it's funny because the answer to that changes through time. like if you go back and you listen to the earliest recordings of bluegrass, they're not very in tune. The mandolin is constantly out of tune. Like you'll hear I was listening to I was cleaning this studio so that it could be nicer to hang out in and teach in. And I was listening to an album that I found on Spotify of Doc Watson playing with Bill Monroe live. And there's a bunch of it where Bill's mandolin is hideously out of tune, and it still works because if you believe in it, it'll work. And some of the harmony singing too used to be a little less in tune. Now with auto tune and Nashville and people like Stuart Duncan who can play perfectly in tune all the time on the fiddle, or Michael Cleveland, or like Bronwyn Keith Hines, the new super hotshot star currently touring with Molly Tuttle in Golden Highway, which is a band you should see if they come near your town. The standard of intonation has increased. The standard by which people are judged for how good their intonation is, the standard is like it's getting more in tune as time goes on. And so I think if you want to be a professional bluegrass musician, playing in tune is really ridiculously important. I think if you want to be playing Irish music, then there's some creative choices that you can make with your intonation.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully that helps about the different genres. I think awareness. Okay. Please name the gears that I use with electric fiddle. Okay. So what gear am I using? I'll take you on a quick tour. Sure, why not? So this is my Yamaha YEV 105. It is a 5-string. I see you also have a 5-string, so you're off to a good start. It's the correct number of strings. I'm also happy to send pictures of this thing. Due to my somewhat archaic setup, I can't. I'm just gonna tell you about it, and if you email me, I'll send you pictures later. But what I'm doing, I'm sending this first into a bunch of pedals. The first one is from Radial. It's called the Tone Bone Piezo Pre, and what that does. I'm not going through anything except that thing. It just kind of correctly receives the signal from my quarter-inch cable, and it helps massage it into a happy place by having a high impedance input that I can adjust. And it's also got an EQ on it. It's also got a mute button on it, which is really good. Really, I use that all the time on stage. Like, I want to mute when I'm not playing. Like, in between songs, if I want to tune, having that mute is really cool. Having the boost button is also really cool. So if I'm going to take the solo on a song, I'm going to hit that boost and make sure the sound person doesn't have to move the fader up to make my solo louder than the rest of what I'm doing. Then I'm going into a Tech 21 fly rig. And again, send me an email if you wouldn't mind. I'll send you a picture of all this. I have a electric guitar amp and speaker simulator. It's supposed to simulate the sound of pointing a microphone at a tube amp. Okay, so here's the difference. Here's it off. Here's it on. Other than make it louder, I just really like what it does to my tone. It is not an acoustic violin tone. I'm going for an electric tone, but then it also gives me my that awesome delay sound. It's also got a boost button. Makes it a little louder, and this sick, massive distortion. Which gets even more ridiculous when you turn on the octave pedal from the micropog. Okay, so I have that cello button, and goodbye to the person who's waving. Thank you for coming. I always got to have my bass notes. And I've got my wah. And I've got my reverb. Makes it a little more pleasant, even if you don't think about it. And I've got the Boomerang 3 for my looping pedal. That's pretty much all that's happening. Other than that, I'm going through a 50-pound SWR California Blonde amp, which I bought at a pawn shop across the street from a gig for about the same amount of money as a really crappy new amp. So I'm all for weird old amps that are cheap and sound good. And I'm just gonna type this thing that this is the Tech 21 Fly Rig V5. That's my secret weapon of pedals. That's where I get my tube amp simulation in an analog realm, plus delay with tap tempo, plus distortion, plus a boost, plus reverb, plus EQ. The new ones that even come with a DI out and a tuner and a mute button. What a pedal. It's amazing. So the moral of the story, of course, is to buy more gear. Where would I be without representing my favorite mic in the world at the moment, the Neumann TL102? I have no idea if it's even worth it on Zoom, but when I record anything with this, it just sounds so good. So I hope that helps. Chulumo, hopefully I'm saying your name right. But send me an email and let me know. I can send you pictures of this stuff, and I'd be happy to talk more. Because if you ask 10 electric violinists what they do for gear, you'll get 25 different answers. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, what is the sound in your head, and what's going to help you get your artistic vision out? Because not everyone wants the same sound. So it's a fun journey. Enjoy the journey. The drone, Brian says, thanks, Andy. The drone exercise seems to be super helpful. Adding it to the routine help retune the aging ears and combat sloppy habits. Yes. Am I still recording? I didn't mean to be. Okay. I'm going to